It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. The Detroit Lions took their record to 2-1 as they soundly defeated the Atlanta Falcons 20-6 at Ford Field last Sunday. The Lions put together a stellar defensive effort and had just enough on offense to seal the deal. The Lions will set their sights once again on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field as they visit the Pack on Thursday Night Football. We'll preview that contest and review the effort against the Falcons next. Now here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Brzezinski. Drew, we're back, refreshed, and ready to go. We missed last week. That's my fault, fellas. I apologize, but we're back, and we have our roundtable to discuss another Lion victory. They're 2-1, and talking about the Lions first, Coach Andy Shield of the Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
Drew, doing well. In the heart of the football season. We're in the high school regular football. The regular season in high school football is already half over. So it's kind of hard to believe that's, how things are in the festive season of football, but we're well underway, the heart of the football season, good time of the year.
And just a few miles down Warren Road from my house, Detroit's finest, Justin Merriquin. How you doing, Justin?
Doing great. To add to Coach's point, I got a shout out to my high school, Westland, John Glenn. Football, they're 5-0. They're taking on Belleville this week. They're 5-0 as well. They're absolutely rolling. Crushed the Wayne Memorial Zebras this past Friday. So looking forward to that and looking forward to the Lions victory this Thursday.
Absolutely. And I know another guy who might be looking forward to a Lion victory on Thursday, the Youper, Brad Harrison, who's living in the state of Wisconsin.
It's hard to believe.
I know. But you're bringing the good word, the good news to that state. How you doing?
It is possible. It is possible. There was plenty of times I didn't think it would be possible, but 8 years later, since we moved here, all we do is beat Green Bay. So I'll keep doing it if that's what it takes. And since we're talking high school, shout out to my alma mater, the Rapid River Rockets. A little up and down this year, playing that 8-man game in the UP. But, the boys are good at their all. So keep going, Rapid.
2 divisions of 8-man football now.
Is that right?
Okay. It's a growing thing. Oh, certainly. And
harder to win that state championship now, I guess.
It's getting more difficult. It's getting more difficult. They've split in 2, but, it's creeping south. It used to be a kind of a northern Michigan's game. And into the thumb was about as south as you got with 8-man, but it's becoming a big thing in Michigan.
Yeah, I want that championship game at Ford Field. Although it's nice in Marquette to have it at the Superior Dome, or the Youper Dome as we call it. But get that down to Ford Field.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, Coach, I know we want to give this shout out. Coach Glodich's book, A Run to the River, came out on Tuesday, the 19th. Last Tuesday, a week ago. Great read. My copy's on the way, but it's a great read, and I encourage anybody to read that, whether you're a sports fan or not. It's a great story about sports, but it's a great story about camaraderie and teamwork and community. It's awesome. So check it out, definitely. Yeah, you're a big part of that, Coach.
Well, thank you. And yes, and we look to have a little bit more Run to the River content coming your way. We've got some community episodes that we'd like to publish with some people that were around the program at that time. And we also are trying to slate the 2013 football staff as a whole. We'll be having an episode as well down the road. So yeah, Run to the River, real special book and piece of writing by a great man in Ron Glodich. Please check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Great book. Hey, guys, talking about some great stuff, great football. Let's talk about what happened at Ford Field this past Sunday. Great win by the Lions, 20-6. I'd like to hear your thoughts overall, gentlemen, about the game as a whole. I'll kick it off. And really, from the get-go, I was just so impressed by the defense. The couple guys stood out immediately in Brian Branch and Alex Anzalone. It just got better and better as the game progressed. That's what I saw. Coach, how'd you see it?
Well, I think you're very right, Drew. I think you're very right. And that is something that I think really the face of the team, in this game was really the defense rather than the offense. the way it had been, kind of the Lions had been slated as an offensive-minded team. The defense really responded well. You mentioned Brian Branch. You mentioned Alex Anzalone. Basically through just straight up and down, play of the game rush. We're base defense stuff. We didn't see much blitzing and anything really extravagant. It was very, very vanilla. The Lions generated 7 sacks on Desmond Ridder, and that was fantastic. A lot of individual performances. You're absolutely right, Drew. We banged up as we are in the secondary. We're having some responses. Tracy Walker played a great football game. He did a great job out there. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised about that. You've got Jerry Jacobs playing his heart out. He got a couple of PIs. Yes, he did. But he's playing his heart out there, and we're not getting hurt. Those penalties, just like some play of some people on offense, did not defeat the Detroit Lions. Brian Branch was statistically extremely impressive, and people didn't even see that. They saw what they saw with the play on the field, and they could just tally it up with their own mind that this guy was all over the place making all sorts of plays. And Alex Anzalone, I tell you what, we got a real pro in that linebacking core, and he's leading guys like Derek Barnes and Jack Campbell and Rodrigo and Cameron Reeves and some of the other guys that are getting some Pittman. That's a strength of this team. That unit's looking really, really good. And we mentioned the 7 sacks. So, Drew, you hit the nail on the head. The tip of the cap this week goes to the defense.
Yeah, they were great. Justin, what did you see? What stood out to you?
I just got one word in my mind, and that's physicality. Coach was talking about Brian Branch, but how about Aleem McNeil? He had a really good game. We were kind of waiting to see that, kind of, riding off of last season of how he finished, late in the season. That's what he was doing Sunday. And how about Cam Sutton, too, doing his job on the other side of the field opposite Jerry Jacobs. So the physicality was evident. Melifonwu jumping in there as well. Had some spectacular plays, good tackling. So they answered the bell this week because we had a lot of questions after that Seattle Seahawks game. And I think they answered all those questions and more. Hats off to Aaron Glenn and that defense. A fine job.
Uper
Brad, your thoughts going away from that one. What'd you think?
Yeah, I'll just pick up where Justin just left off. We all had to live through that Geno Smith experience again, 2 years in a row now. And
that was great.
For what Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn did between that Seattle game and that Atlanta game was amazing. These are leaders who are bright and humble. They had to look in the mirror and know what they had to make some changes for this game against Atlanta. And they got those men's mindset right. And it was, you guys are exactly right. It was from the front to the back, every player, the guys who played 100% of the snaps to the ones who just came in here on spot. I mean, even Romeo Okwara to break up that pass. I mean, he only played, 20 snaps, but made a difference. And you look at a rookie Brian Branch playing 100% of the defensive snaps. Tracy Walker could have asked for a trade like some people might do when that happens. When you get drafted and you have your agent call the GM and say, "Get me out of here." Guess what? We know that happens, right? Mm-hmm. That wasn't Tracy Walker. And Alex Anzalone, what a pro. Cam Sutton playing 100% of the snaps, and Jerry Jacobs missing 1 snap that entire game. And it was rough. Those PIs are tough to stomach. But man, what effort. And I want the D in Detroit to stand for defense. I always had. Let's hope let's get this to travel. This is amazing.
It was a very, very impressive win. Very sound performance. Like we said in the intro, the defense dominated. The offense did just enough. They were good, but they're so banged up on the offensive side of football. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But let's jump to it, guys. First of all, we talk about the standout performers, the guys that stood out here. Let's talk about Jared Goff and Coach. We talked about him after the game. And I know I felt like he played pretty well, but in looking back and even in talking to you, Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there, but he got it done. But you saw some issues.
Well, my vantage point too of it is such under the microscope, so I'm so staring into it. Did Jared Goff play good enough for us to win this game? Obviously, he did. And Jared Goff, yeah, his performance was not quintessentially or classically subpar, but he missed some throws on third down. He missed a couple of wide open throws, and he threw an interception when we were really in a 13-3 battle at that time. That was tough. And those were things that are not the Jared Goff that we've grown to know in Detroit. I think some of it has to do with really is that pass protection. We're talking about an offensive line that is extremely beat up. It's extremely beat up. And we saw some, Ragnow get a holding penalty. We saw Penei Sewell get 2 holding penalties. Poor Matt Nelson is now done for at least the next 6 to 8 weeks, it appears, with an ankle fracture. Injury that's very similar to James Houston's on the defensive side of the ball. We know Hank Vaitais may very well. I mean, I'm not sure we'll see him back, or when we do, how much we'll see of him. And Graham Glasgow has already filled that role. Frank Ragnow is on the veterans rest list. They get to do that with a player and it not be held against him, as part of his contract. So, I mean, he's nursing a toe injury that's, significant. So, and Jonah Jackson's, he's battled injuries too. So, I mean, we're talking about an offensive line that is definitely not full speed ahead. And I'm not sure we'll ever see that exact offensive line full speed ahead. But Taylor Decker's coming back, which is a great, great thing. We'll talk about that more when we get into the Green Bay game. But that had to do something with Jared Goff's, few misfires. And, he was pressured a little bit and put a little bit too much on the football a couple of times. But by and large, like you said, Drew, you are right. Jared Goff, played a good football game. It's just not one of his better football games.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Very fair assessment. He did enough to win, though, and that's what matters. Justin, your thoughts on Jared Goff's performance?
Yeah, to me, he kind of took a step back. Just kind of disappointed in the performance. And yeah, he had a passing touchdown and rushing touchdown, which that surprised everyone, including myself. But that interception late, what Coach was talking about when it was 13-3, that kind of. It did kind of, put us like in a bind, the defense stepped up, but, he missed some key throws, like Coach, already said, open throws, some third down throws. You just got to get better in that aspect, because as we get, into the meat of the schedule and these games coming up and these defenses coming up, he's got to play better. And I know he can, but I didn't really like, what I witnessed on Sunday.
Brad, your thoughts on Jared Goff?
Yeah, like what he said after the game, right? Like that was the worst throw he thinks he's ever made, and to be that aware of what was going on and the struggles that he had, and I think it had everything to do with that offensive line and flux. I was nervous of one sack he had that his face mask got caught in the turf and he did something to his neck. Obviously didn't miss a snap, so he was okay. But good for the kid to run it in, right? What did he say? He didn't want anybody to forget he was a running quarterback.
Hey, that was a slick play call, and they executed to perfection. I agree with you, Justin. I had no idea he had the ball, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was nice.
Zone keep.
Yes. Hey, Brad, I'm going to stick with you. Let's talk about briefly this offensive line, and Coach touched on it. Thank goodness Taylor Decker is coming back, because the whole right side's decimated, and realistically, I personally never thought that I thought Glasgow was actually going to start. I wasn't counting on Big D, and I was really happy that he was starting. He played well when he played, and I who knows if he'll be back. But your thoughts on that line right now and the state of it?
Well, I give Sorslow credit for playing a half of football coming out of, as a rookie. Boy, you hate to have to put a kid in that position So, yeah, I think Decker is the key to the whole thing. For him to come back, get back on that left side so Sewell can get on the right. That's going to make a world of difference moving forward. But I just get the sense that line going to that fourth string right tackle, you're going to have a hard time. Any team's going to have a hard time with that. That's not pointing a finger at Brad Holmes for not having enough depth here, right? Like, you only got so many roster positions, and man, did we tax it. So, man, we need Decker back. We need Sewell back on that right side. And, Dan Skipper, my goodness, like,
and he's
in and out.
I know.
And he's hurt. Yeah, good point. Matt Nelson is out. I was lamenting Matt Nelson having to play until he was hurt. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, it's scary
I miss
stuff.
Matt Nelson.
I know, and it's hard to say.
Well, we still got the coach. We still got Hank Fraley.
There you go.
We got
a tremendous offensive line coach. So they're going to do as good as they can.
Yeah, you're right, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but I mean, it's amazing to me as good as this line is, and as banged up as they still. I mean, Goff was under some duress, but at the end of the day, I mean, this line still is very good, and we're going to talk about. So
Drew, I hate to interrupt you, but I just wanted to mention about we didn't have David Montgomery. That was another problem for Jared too, right? Like, that was they were playing with they didn't have guys they were counting on, so hopefully Montgomery and Decker are back. That's
a great point. Yeah, and it's Coach, is Decker coming back for the Thursday game? Are we?
Sounds like it.
Okay, that's good news. That's real good news. But here's a guy who stepped up, as you mentioned, Uper. David Montgomery is out with a thigh injury. I know he's still questionable for Thursday night. But Justin, your thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs and his performance?
Yeah, with Montgomery out, we're looking, to the kid Gibbs, taking the bulk of the carries and getting involved in the passing game. And I liked what I saw with him running and, kind of just being physical as he was at Alabama. So, almost saw a touchdown. Hopefully we see that Thursday night. It's coming. But I really like how Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson have brought him along. And they did kind of lean on him heavily. And, I think he answered it beautifully. I mean, you see it right there, 17 carries for 80 yards. Yeah, he only had one catch for 2 yards. But as the season progresses and he starts to pick up this playbook a little bit more, I think, and then him and Goff being more in sync, I think you'll start to see a lot more explosive plays. And then shout out to Bam Knight, too, coming in there, kind of just, doing a little bit of duty. He didn't have too much, to root on, carries wise and yards wise, but he's a serviceable backup too. And Craig Reynolds got in there as well. So I think moving forward with these injuries and whatnot to the offensive line, we're going to have to mix and match, and we're just the next man up. We got to have that mentality.
Yeah, I think they've mastered that, Coach, because they are severely banged up, and to come out with a win this impressive was something else. But your thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs? He's really he's a straight ahead runner, but man, he's like a pinball. I mean, he can take. You're not bringing him down that first hit.
Just electric feet. I mean, it's just a phenomenon of his athletic ability is the way his feet work, and it is impressive. And we didn't probably see him as involved in the pass game, because as Brad alluded to, an excellent point. Dave Montgomery was sidelined. I mean, more and more we look at it, the kind of pressure that was on guys like, really the pressure was on Jared Goff. And a lot of pressure because the line wasn't, up to snuff. We are also thin in the run game. So they probably were going to dial up some pressures and do some different things and sit back and, take away the downfield shots that Jared could make. Jahmyr Gibbs also wasn't going to be able to be as active in the pass game and making, the pass coverage that much more difficult for Atlanta. He was going to be back in the backfield being the primary runner. 17 for 80 is nice production. So, I don't think anyone's going to, shake a stick at that. I mean, that's very nice production. But he wasn't allowed to be the accent player and the splash player that's going to come up with big chunk plays and like you said, Justin touchdowns. He was a meat and potatoes ball carrier here, and getting with a couple of good getting spelled by our guy from Kutztown State, D2 Pennsylvania, Craig Reynolds. And Bam, Zon of a Night came in and was active and did some things too. Poor old Jason Cabinda got the call on the one play and got stuffed like a Thanksgiving bird. Nonetheless, the run game was effective. In the end, we rushed for over 100 yards, guys. So, I know this was not maybe the performance of our offense, but you weren't getting the A punch of our offense either. We're getting more like the B minus punch, and we still generated 20 points and did some things, over almost 250 through the air and over 100 on the ground.
Yeah, they statistically pretty good. Not spectacular, but pretty good. But there were some mistakes, but stuff they can clean up, and it's. To me, I can't state enough how important it is to get Decker back, because then Sewell goes back to the right side. Right. Now, and then you've got Graham Glasgow at guard. Life's a lot better. Life gets a lot better. Let's talk about the receiving core. We won't talk about every individual, guys, but I want to talk about the group as a whole. And then we look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mr. Consistency, 9 catches, 102 yards, made some really key plays, got a lot of rack, really did a nice job out there. He's just so consistent, and he's not spectacular. He's not making the single-handed grabs. He doesn't have, he just gets it done. He gets it done. And then you've got a guy like Sam Laporta, who had the big touchdown catch, 8 catches, 84 yards. Sam Laporta, and almost as impressive as his touchdown was his first catch, I believe, for 10 yards and a first down. And he just battled forward, and then his teammates helped him out and pushed him ahead. Love that. Khalif Raymond, 4 catches for 55, and he was wide open on a big one that Goff just missed. And, he could have had a massive game, but he was very good. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Skipped ahead a little too far. But as a whole, Josh Reynolds not playing, right? And then Jamison Williams still suspended. This group got it done, guys. Let's talk about their performance. And Coach, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the passing game and the pass receivers as a whole.
It's a position group that could, like we said, some of our most electric performers aren't even playing in it right now. I'm telling you what, Amon-Ra is not 100% healthy. I don't believe. He's got a foot issue that's not perfect. We've seen it through the season. He's kind of nursing that a little bit. He's fighting through it. With Reynolds, Reynolds was dressed. I don't know if he didn't play much. You have Marvin Jones, who's the oldest wide receiver in the game, I believe, out there generating for us. This is a position group that is very, very professional. And Khalif Raymond is an absolute leader and a great, just a great team football player, doing some great things. Laporta, he's definitely, I saw somebody post on X, and just like that, TJ Hawkinson was replaced. And it's 100% true.
Yeah.
We replaced TJ Hawkinson with the person that replaced TJ Hawkinson.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Tight end U, Iowa. It's awesome. Yeah, you're right, Coach. And boy, I tell you, I'm just laughing because so many of these draft picks this year were so prominent in that game, and so many of them were maligned on draft day by fans, and they're awfully quiet now. So good. Don't trust those AI models. We love them. They're great. They're really fun to play with, but it's a toy. Let's leave the big boy stuff to Brad Holmes and crew. That they know best. These guys are awesome. The San Laporta is a great game. Justin, your thoughts on the receiving core as a whole?
Well, I think it's very, it's promising because we just won a football game, like Coach said, without Jamison Williams. Reynolds not really contributing much. And, we got ragtag guys that are getting it done, like Khalif Raymond. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe, was playing with a steel plate in his cleat, with his foot injury that he's got going on, and he's still getting it done. Like you said, not spectacular, but he gets first downs and he converts. And then let's talk about Sam Laporta. He leads the NFL in tight ends with receiving yards, 186 receiving yards. So that's over George Kittle, that's over Darren Waller, and that's over TJ Hawkinson. So,
and Travis and Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Yeah, and Travis Kelce. So, so it gives you kind of hopefulness that as we go along, and hopefully when JMO comes back, we're going to be very explosive with that group. So I feel very confident. That just shows me as a fan and as an onlooker that this is good for if we ever have to come up in the situation again, hopefully not, that we could still get the job done.
Yeah, you for Brad. I keep every time I see St. Brown, I always think of Johnny Morton, but with a little more speed. I love his game, but your thoughts on this group as a whole and their performance on Sunday?
Yeah, I hope I don't start to take Amon-Ra for granted. He dropped that one pass, and I didn't know what to think. It seemed so foreign. What a pro! The running through those stats, it just got me thinking about Jared, and he had a rough night, but he was the one throwing the ball to all those different receivers. I mean, he was mixing it up. These guys were making the play when they had to. It's interesting to see Marvin not really be part of the mix, but as Coach said, he's the oldest receiver in the league. Maybe he just doesn't have the separation. For Josh Reynolds to score 2 touchdowns 1 week and not a catch this week, and you win, that's pretty good. We're mixing it up. So the one, as I'm watching the game, like I can't help in that first half, and I mentioned it to my wife, like I was giggling. I couldn't stop giggling because I'm like, Kim, look at how open these receivers, like these guys are just running open. And it isn't because Atlanta's bad. It's because of the development of the routes they're running and what Ben Johnson is putting into place. And I sat there and I'm like, can this happen for 4 quarters? And it didn't. But it did for like the first quarter and about right up until halfway through that second quarter, maybe even a little further. So it's Ben Johnson. It's guys putting in the work Monday through Saturday to entertain us on Sunday. And man, it's fun. It is just so fun watching this offense.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing. It really is. I can't get over it. Let's enjoy Ben Johnson while we have him. We're very fortunate and blessed to have him this year. Let's take advantage.
Because Las Vegas is already talking about Ben Johnson being their next coach.
We should pay him more than any head coach. He would just pay him more than anybody.
Las Vegas locals want Ben Johnson as their new head coach.
I'm sure look on Monday night.
Hey guys, let's talk about the defense, and let's start with Brian Branch. I mean, from the get-go, this guy, I can't get over how sure of a tackler he is. He does no clever nicknames, no flashy, no nicknames for. There's no Branch Island, right? But he just makes plays, and you know what? He doesn't get the clutch and grab. Turn away from the referees. And I'm sorry, that happens a lot. He's not getting that. He had a couple penalties in that game. They were legit. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying guys that seem to acclimate themselves as cornerbacks quickly tend to get a lot of leniency with those yellow hankies. And Brian Branch isn't getting that, but Brian Branch just gets it done. 11 tackles and 3 for loss. He was awesome. Coach, like to start with you. Your thoughts on Brian Branch? Am I overstating it, or am I accurate?
Well, being one of those individuals that likes to play with those AI draft models, because I do.
You got me into it, I know.
Really just, as I started, toying around with it, in some of my leisure time, it would kind of educate me, as to some players I should be watching on Saturdays. And he played at a marquee institution that is virtually televised every Saturday in Alabama, and just his spatial timing and awareness is something that's truly a part of his defined athleticism that I don't know if people really know how to state it. Now, I don't know if I'm actually even really like defining and stating it the right way, but it's uncommon. It's uncommon, his timing. He knows how to time football plays. It looks like he does. And he's obviously extremely educated in this game. I'm guessing he played for a phenomenal high school football program. His tutelage at the University of Alabama is second to none. He just looks he looks professorial out there. I mean, that's why he just looks so sharp and smart. He looks like a 5-year veteran, a guy that just signed a real big second contract, and he's fresh in year one. Brian Branch, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These are what I see with these guys and how they play and how they conduct themselves. I think of Joe Dumars.
Yeah.
And it's just we have a lot of Joe Dumars type of guys, on the Detroit Lions, and a lot of Steve Eiserman type guys in the Detroit Lions, a lot of Chris Spielman type guys on the Detroit Lions. And Brian Branch is one of these individuals, and we're very lucky to have this kid. I hope they put 32 Branch up on one of those suite, outside of one of those suites one day, because I know it's game 3 of his career, but barring injuries, he's a special football player for a long time.
He is no question. I would say, Justin, I haven't seen play like this in a while. I was getting Benny Blades flashbacks, a little smaller than Benny Blades, but I was getting Benny Blades flashbacks. Justin, your thoughts on Brian Branch so far?
Just phenomenal for a rookie. Coach said it all. And, I just think back to when we were doing our NFL draft preview and watching tape on this kid at Alabama. And I'll throw out this stat again for all who, didn't know this. During his 4-year career at Alabama, he only missed 4 tackles. Think about that. He played in arguably the best conference in college football, the SEC, playing at the University of Alabama. You're going up against, soon to be NFL players, if not NFL ready already. And he only missed 4 tackles. He has a nose for the football. His IQ is really, really good. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I kind of compare him. When I look at him and see how he plays in the physicality, kind of reminds me of Jalen Ramsey. Just how he goes about his business, and he's always around the football. So we got a good one, and I hope he stays here in Detroit for years to come and makes many more plays. And like Coach says, he has his number up under one of those suites.
So I like how we play off each other.
But I mean, you mentioned 4 tackles in 4 years he's missed. He did log a lot of time as a true freshman. He's 18, making tackles in SEC football games, substantive tackles.
Yeah, Justin, we play off each other very well. I see you give a reference that the kids can relate to, and I give a reference for the folks, those of us that actually saw the last playoff win way back when. So you got to love that. That's how diversity on the Sports Peninsula podcast.
Yeah. We got past and we have present comparisons.
There you go. And then we got
for the kids these days.
And then we got the future. We're putting his number up on the pride of the Lions. All right, and I love it. That's awesome. Uper, Brad, your thoughts on Brian Branch? Did you see Benny Blades out there?
He's not as big as Benny was now.
No.
But man, can he can load, man. He just a sure tackler like Blades. He did not fall to us in the draft. Brad Holmes traded up to get Brian Branch, and he found a willing trade partner in the Green Bay Packers. So I can't wait to see him play against the Green Bay Packers and see how he does, because we moved up 3 spots and we gave up the 48th and 159th pick in the 2023 NFL draft to go get Brian Branch, who if what we saw last Sunday and what we've seen these last few weeks will be a mainstay for this franchise. And way to go, Brad. Thanks for trading up.
Yeah, you're right, Brad. And that's a great observation. Coach, the Packers have been pretty generous with the Lions in the draft. Going back to 1989, they generously passed on Barry Sanders and took Tony Mandarich. We're pretty happy about that.
There's a little history.
Uh-huh.
The Lions, being able to capitalize off of a Green Bay decision.
Now we just got to win one of them Lombardis. That'll help a lot, right? But let's talk about Hutch, Coach. Thank you again to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We you got a good one in Walker, but we're very happy with Mr. Hutchinson. Coach, what can you say about Aiden Hutchinson that hasn't already been said?
Well, I don't know if there really are football gods. I doubt it. But if there were, they shined on the Hutchinson family on Sunday, guys. His sister sang the national anthem. And I'm serious. She did.
Yep.
I mean, the Hutchinson family just were the hosts. This was their living room, was that game on Sunday afternoon. And their son put the exclamation point and slammed the door on the Falcons. And really that was, 2 plays prior to that, Brian Branch was flagged for what was deemed targeting. When it was slowed down, I mean, if it's targeting and it's a penalty, it's certainly not a finable one because he hit him with his chest. It was a very, very forceful collision and aggressive football play, but that was a missed call. Well, the next play, Tracy Walker should have probably had an interception. And then the football gods kept on, striking the iron, and Aiden was able to take us home and forcing a fumble on Desmond Ritter with what essentially became a strip sack. So tremendous once again. He's kind of like the Spencer Torkelson of the Detroit Lions. I guess, he's the power hitter. He's the guy that's going to generate sacks, plays behind the line of scrimmage, quarterback hurries, lighter on tackles, but more on, quarterback pressures and plays behind the line of scrimmage, tackles for loss. These are the things Aiden Hutchinson are going to bring to the table, as long as he plays very good technique and plays technical as well, because his position is vital for that as an edge setter, and sometimes edge setters aren't have the most sexiest statistics because they make plays, not tackles. And I think that's what we see with Aiden Hutchinson too. But when his number is called and we're asked to have him generate some pass rush, this young man's, getting blocking schemes that are illegal devised against him, like we saw in game 1 with Kansas City. And Atlanta did not follow that formula, and we see the results as a result of it.
Yeah, the irony, I want to say it might have been at the half, and I flipped on the red zone, and they happened to be on the Chiefs game. And I kid you not, guys, there was a flag for an illegal formation, and they said on the right tackle, and I'm like, well, that figures. You're all over it now. Good job, guys. But I hear you. Yeah, they're teams. From what I've seen, guys, and I want to ask you all about the defense as a whole. But from what I'm seeing right now, the Lions are winning games in the trenches because their offensive line, number one, has been so good. But that defensive line literally can roll out an entire second unit that's very, very stout. And by the middle of the third quarter, they are beating the crap out of the opposition's offensive line. And then because Atlanta kind of kept, at least in terms of sacks, they weren't getting at Ritter right. They were putting pressure on him, but they weren't getting to him until the second half. And then the floodgates just opened. They got to him late in the second quarter, I should say, because Campbell had the one at the end of the half, which was a nice play. But Justin, your thoughts on this defensive unit? Coach said it earlier, 7 sacks. No touchdowns allowed, only 245 yards of offense allowed. That's pretty impressive. Talk about it.
Yeah, they put a statement, exclamation point, whatever you want to call it, stamp on this game right here. And I believe, they called themselves out, particularly, with each other and, after that Seattle game, and they just exploded. And when you have Hutchinson doing his thing, you have Aleem McNeil, just blowing up the center and the guards and just, barreling through there. that makes life easier for the secondary, and these linebackers too are benefiting from that upfront pressure that Ali McNeil causes, and so does Aiden Hutchinson. So you're really seeing, the fruits of that labor pay off. And then Derek Barnes, I can't say enough about him. We thought he was kind of dead in the water last season, probably the odd man out, outside looking in, but he's really integrated himself into, not only starting role, but just a big part of this defense. And he's just been playing lights out football. And then have to give props once again to Alex Anzalone. This guy's looking like the anchor on our defense, getting guys lined up properly. Communication, you see that, with all these guys on the field, including Hutchinson, getting people lined up properly. So I'm loving it. And hopefully this continues, not only this Thursday night, but as, each game rolls along, we get better and better as a unit.
Yeah, you bring up Barnes and Anzalone, and they're pictured up here. And Brad, what I've seen personally, and I'm sure everybody has, is, and Justin touched on it, but Anzalone and Barnes have gotten exponentially better over the last couple of years. I mean, when the first year we had Anzalone, his first half of the season was awful. And Derek Barnes, we had high hopes for, and it didn't seem like it was going to pan out. And he even lost. He didn't start last year, but my goodness, what have we got this year?
Guys who just study their craft, want to get better, do get better, put in the work. I always made jokes about Anzalone when he first got here. And this is no slight on Scott Kolakowski, Drew, but he was giving me Kolakowski vibes, right? Like he should be on punt coverage, not starting linebacker.
You weren't alone in that opinion.
He should be our starting linebacker. He has earned it. Yeah. And for Derek Barnes to spend these last few years improving his game, my hat's off to him. And to the point where that linebacker room has got some incredible talent, and we don't have to. Jack Campbell's is going to be great, but he doesn't have to be the guy right now because the work Derek and Alex have put in, and we're kind of seeing where Rodriguez is kind of settling in at, right? So, and that's no slight on him either, but he's just not as good as these guys. So, keep it up.
Okay, guys. In 2 days from now, this is September 26th on a Tuesday, on the 28th, and Thursday, Lambeau Field, Amazon Prime, Thursday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers. A pretty solid 2-1 Green Bay Packers. They have the tiebreaker over the Lions with an extra conference win. This is a huge divisional game early in the season, and it's a short week. Let's talk keys to victory. Coach, let's start on the offensive side of the football. What do the Lions need to do on offense in order to take this game?
Time of possession, no turnovers. Time of possession and no turnovers. If they do that, I really do think their offense will have been the deciding factor in winning the game. We need to have the ball more than 30 minutes, and we cannot have any turnovers. If we do those two things, I think we're going to be in good shape. We'll be out on the grass. I'm not sure what the weather's forecasted to be Thursday night up in Door County, but I think it's going to be a balanced attack. We're going to take what we're given in the past game. Hopefully we can see a little bit more Sam Laporta. It'd be great if we have some of our players back in the backfield that it can help us diversify our running attack and allow Jahmyr Gibbs to also be utilized more in the pass game. But no turnovers and time of possession are the keys for me.
Sounds like a absolute winning plan there, Coach, to me. Justin, your thoughts? What are the keys to victory on the offensive side of football?
I think first and foremost, they have to set the tone early, be aggressive and be smart too. You're on the road. So, hopefully, if it comes down to it, a 4th and short situation, maybe possibly kick the field goal, live to fight another day, as 3 points added on, as we, saw in the Atlanta game, Dan Campbell did, but also just like Coach said, time of possession, keep Jordan Love and that offense, on the sidelines, and don't let them get, don't let them, creep any more in the game than they have to. So really just control the line of scrimmage, limit penalties. You're on the road. It's going to be tough, and just kind of take it to them. Show them, each drive have a purpose. No throwaway drives, no 3 and outs. Get it done.
Sounds good to me. Uper Brad, what do you think? What's it going to take for this offense to be successful at Lambeau?
Yeah, time of possession, no turnover, or limit your turnovers. I think that's it. Green Bay's defense is their calling card, right? So we're gonna have to, take it to them, and having Decker on the line is going to be important to balance out what we can do in the run game and keep Goff upright. So, I think from an offensive standpoint, if you can control that line of scrimmage, and to what you guys already talked about on the turnovers, limit those, and we'll have a chance.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I don't think they have to do anything Herculean. They need to play their game, but they need to be I wouldn't say flawless, but mistake-free football and control the clock, like you guys said. I think that makes perfect sense. Getting Decker back and moving Sewell back to the right side changes the scope of things dramatically. And I think it's going to be real important against this Green Bay defense. Gary's having a nice year, Rashawn Gary, and we're glad to see that. Former Wolverine, we like to see that, but don't want to see it on Thursday necessarily. But that's a good, Coach, you said that their calling card, they hang their hat on their defense, and there's no question about that. Let's switch to the other side of the football now. Uper Brad, I'm going to go back to you. What does this defense have to do now? Because it's not Aaron Rodgers back there anymore, and you're not having to worry about Devontae Adams outside. It's a different football team, but they still got talent over there. What's it going to take?
Hey, stop the run. Aaron Jones is he was limited in practice today, so they want him back because AJ Dillon, although he is strong, he is just slow, right? So if they can stop the run and make Jordan Love have to throw, then we got this thing exactly where we want it to be. And Jordan is still a young kid. I spent time in Logan, Utah. I watched a lot of Utah State football in my day, and he's not a bad quarterback by any stretch. He's just not there yet. So I would tell you, stop that run, put it on Love's shoulders, and we'll be just fine.
I like that. Justin, your thoughts on what the defense is going to have to do?
I agree with Brad. Make Jordan Love beat you. He alluded to that Aaron Jones is limited in practice. I know LaFleur wants him back for Thursday night for that, 1-2 punch, like Brad said. Aaron Jones is kind of the finesse, faster player, and A.J. Dillon is like the rock of their offense. But you take out the run game, let Jordan Love, see what he can do, and hopefully we can pressure him, make him, make mistakes. But also you have to watch out for Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. Those two young guys, really fast wide receivers. They can stretch the field. You don't want to get in that situation where you're letting out 15, 20 yards and kind of get them, rolling as an offense. So if you just kind of did what they did in Atlanta, shut down that run game, let this young quarterback like Ritter, now Jordan Love, try to beat you, I think you have a pretty good shot at winning this football game.
Like that's philosophy, Justin. Now, Coach, what are your thoughts here? What's Aaron Glenn going to do?
Well, also I think, Brad alluded to it too with some of the injury report, the Packers who are on the injury report. It's significant. There's some key offensive players there. Christian Watson hasn't played yet this year. He has not been on the field. He's been nursing a hamstring all season long. He didn't play in week 3, and there's a chance he's not going to play in week 4 as well. So those would be, advantages for the Lions. But what do I think we need to see? We need to see what Brad had said, and that's eliminating the running game and limiting it to being a non-factor and them being able to flip the field, to possess the football, to convert third downs, to score, take those things away via the run. And let's put the pressure on Jordan Love. And let's make sure we get Jordan Love in some spots where he's got to make some very hasty decisions, put him under duress, pressure him, stress his decision-making capabilities, put pressure on him to win the game. for the Green Bay Packers. If we can do that, I'm tipping my hat to Mr. Harrison. He hit the nail on the head. I think we'd be in real good shape.
For the Lions right now, so Decker did practice in a limited capacity. Kirby Joseph and David Montgomery as well as Emmanuel Mosley. So there's hope. I think looking at this from my point of view, I mean, to get Montgomery back would be a bonus. I'm not expecting him back, but that would be nice. But to me, the big one's Taylor Decker, mostly because it really shores up two spots, and it's huge with the injuries, and you don't really want to see Court Sortisall put in that position necessarily, especially not in this game. I don't like that necessarily. I think they're going to have to, depending on what the line looks like, they're going to have to scheme around it. But you can't go to the well too often, because they're going to figure that out very quickly. But to get some predictions here before we wrap up, guys, I'll start this round. And I think if the Lions are able to your points, control the football, control the clock, no mistakes in this one, no turnovers. Offensively, they're going to get theirs. I could see them getting 24 points pretty easily. Green Bay did win yesterday on Sunday, 18-17 over the Saints. Derek Carr missed most of that second half. They scored those 18 points to their credit in the fourth quarter. They put on a hell of a run, and the Saints missed the field goal at the end too. So, hey, you know what? They won the game. That's all that matters, right? Because there's like Dan Campbell said, there's no asterisk next to 1-0, right? There's no asterisk next to that 18-17 win. They're 2-1. On defense, I totally agree. You've got to take the run away. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, wow, that opens things up a little bit. You could really put some pressure on Jordan Love. And if Aaron Jones doesn't play in this game, the Packers are in for a long one. I'm going to assume he is, but I'm going to have the Lions winning this one 24-21. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a tough game. It's never easy in Lambeau, and that the Packers are better than some people gave them credit for. Some people had them winning the division. I've seen it both ways. I've seen a lot of people picking the Lions to win it, and some people even picking the Vikings. But at the end of the day, Green Bay is a tough team. But I see it as 24-21 Lions. Coach, how do you see it?
I see it relatively similarly. Like I said, in an idealistic fashion, the Detroit Lions are going to possess the football for a long time. They're going to be able to run. They're going to convert third downs. They're going to have the field flipped and have Green Bay coming out of their own end zone or their own half of the field, the majority of the game. And the Lions are going to win an NFC North, black and blue division, Norris division type football score. Detroit 20, Green Bay 10.
I like it. I'll take it. Justin, what are your predictions?
Well, like we've all just said, time of possession, running the football. But, the biggest thing for me on both sides of football, controlling the line of scrimmage. I think if they do that on both sides of the football, obviously you win this game. I do think it'll be a little bit of a dogfight, probably chippy at times. It always is when we play in Green Bay. But if we do all these things that we're talking about, we have a very good chance of winning this football game. I have the Lions winning 27-19.
I like that too. Youper Brad, you don't get a nickname like that unless you are actually a Youper.
Yes, you got that right. You got that right.
Yes, and you gave us a little geography lesson before the podcast about the great dividing line of the yellow and green versus the Honolulu blue and silver. Talk about that.
Born and raised Rapid River, Michigan. Graduated from Rapid River High School in 1992.
It's a good year.
And that's when I went to Kalamazoo, right? So in 1992, this was a long time ago. We're all a little older. The Central UP, this is where we all battled, right? This is where the green and gold from the western end of the UP and the Honolulu blue and silver from the eastern end of the UP would clash. And you know where I stand. And that's when, and right around that time, number 4 showed up, number 12 showed up. There's some folks who aren't as headstrong as others and may have shifted their allegiance during that period. But I will tell you this, there are a lot of Detroit Lion fans in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that live and breathe for these 2 games a year. We call it the Uper Bowl, and there's a lot riding on it. And I never picked Green Bay to beat Detroit, even when it was on that, whatever that run was, and how many games I blocked it out of my mind. But I got this right now, fellas. And this is not for Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson and Ole Anderson and Ric Flair and the 4 horsemen of pro wrestling. This is for the 4th win in a row against the Green Bay Packers. And I don't need to talk about the ring. That's my wedding ring. The 4 horsemen.
Great reference, by the way.
4 wins in a row. Because it's all comes back. I don't remember how many it was.
We don't have
we're on the roll now. And I don't want it to be close. So let's do a 24-7, right? Let's get Jordan Love just freaking out and throwing in a couple interceptions and controlling the line of scrimmage, and Jared just being the professional he is.
I love it. Hey, Brad, before we leave, I love the 4 horsemen reference. I'm loving the sweatshirt. That's circa 1994-95 era, right? Great Lakes offense. That's some Wayne Fonts gear there, isn't it?
The Reebok.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I love it. Coach Fonts was in town for Barry Sanders' statue unveiling this past weekend, right?
Last week, yes, he was. And, I try to keep up on these things, but I thought we lost Wayne Fonts some years back. And when they announced his name, I was working in the computer. I looked up. I went, what? And I had to stand up and look down there because, Chris Berman called this guy Rasputin. I thought he was dead. He is. I thought Wayne Fonts was gone.
It's like the Gene Wilder reference. Every year, people think he's still alive.
Right, and Wayne.
God rest his soul.
Wayne Fonts is the winningest coach in Lions history.
Yes.
He really. It was great to see Coach Fonts. We went to some heights with him there. We had some good times.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's still with us.
Yep, he's looking good. I know he's in Tampa, but he came up for Barry, and that was awesome. Yeah, Coach Fonts, that was good memories. Good memories. I before we wrap up, I remember going to a couple of training camps with you, Coach, and I'll never forget. I went to get his autograph, and he was driving away in his cart. Because remember, guys, he used to have that golf car all the time. He saw me, and I wasn't like waving for him or anything. I wasn't like, or anything. But then he saw me. He turned right around. He drove like about 50 feet to come back to me. I was like, wow, man, thanks, Coach. It's stuff like that. It's like kids remember that stuff. I love Coach Fonts.
Wayne Fonts, great call, David. That's a great. I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's why Wayne Fonts was successful here because he cared about people and he treated people the right way. He's a good guy, and people like to play for good guys. And organizations like to rally around good guys, and that happened. And we can make fun of he was going to get fired. He's going to get fired. His players bailed him out as much as they possibly could. So that's a good point, Drew. You bring up a great point.
Well, fellas, let's wrap this one up. Great talking to you guys again. Great talking about a Lions-Packers matchup. It'll be even better next week talking about a Lions victory at Lambeau Field for Coach Andy Shield, Marine City Mariners, and Detroit's finest Justin Merriquin and the Uper Brad Harrison. My name is Drew. Take care, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and for your support. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.